talk a little bit about how to plan for success in terms of farm to cafeteria work. Because as you all know, it's a really long process. And you all have probably been doing this longer than I have. And I just wanted to bring in a few little things that I've learned so that hopefully they're pieces that we can walk away with that make the work go farther. So first I wanted to talk about communication. The communication that happens between a producer and food service is some of the most important communication that can happen. I recently was meeting with Arlene Jones and Colette Polkamp, who work together on Farm to School in Brainerd, and they were saying that as a farmer and food service director, that they talk to each other more than they talk to their own husbands. So there's a lot of communication that happens. It doesn't have to happen that often, but there's a lot that happens. So these are just a few things to keep in mind when you're communicating, and especially when we've got the ground covered in as much snow that we've got right now. It's good to talk about what sort of products the farmer likes to grow and what price they expect. Every farm is going to be different. They all operate different. And for food service, they want to be able to communicate what sort of quantities they serve and what prices they're looking at. And then down below that, we've got communication about the product. So I think it's good in the spring to start talking about how you're going to talk in the fall or in the summer. So is it a phone call at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday that's best? Is it a text message or an email? What works best for your operation? We're talking about busy farmers that are out in the field and really busy school cooks who are in the kitchen. Also, it's good to chat about the best day and time to deliver. Again, you've got busy schedules, and the farmer might already have a delivery route going by, or the school food service might only be taking deliveries 2 days out of a week. The next part I've got on there is sanitation. It's good to talk about what sort of practices the farmers use, and I just want to say that on both the food service and the farmer end, both care so much about food safety. And so it should be a comfortable conversation to talk about those types of things. So along with sanitation, I've also got packaging expectations. When I started working with Iowa State University on their local food program, they said, yeah, we've got local before. They delivered 50 pounds of asparagus in a black garbage bag. We don't want it like that. When it's asparagus, you want it in a box. And so it's good to have those conversations ahead of time so that you don't make a snafu like that. When it's beautiful asparagus, you can only get at one time of the year. Also, it's good to talk about the invoice procedure. A lot of schools may not pay their invoices a month out. So talk about that, and also with the invoice and the payment procedure. And again, food safety is really important, just to get the ball rolling and speak with one another about what your practices are. All right, so here's the fun part. After you've sat down and you've had those conversations, you know where the other person is coming from, you might even already know some crops you want to grow for that particular buyer. I'm just going to show 3 different examples of what I've used, and I'm sure you've used similar things, so please feel free to add on to them later. This one is school-supported agriculture, and it comes from the idea that farms that are doing community-supported agriculture, or CSAs, are getting orders from consumers in the wintertime for products that's in throughout the season. So the idea behind this is that communication is happening and agreements are made in the spring so that when the fall comes, there's consistent purchases. And so what I had schools do is they decided on 6 weeks in the fall, because we all know, even though we're pretty far north, there's a lot of good food that you can grow 6 weeks into the school year. And so the communication happens in the spring, and then in the fall, they make deliveries based on those agreements that, none of the kids at my school eat beets, but if you can deliver 20 pounds of carrots every week on Tuesdays for 6 weeks, that's our agreement. So that's just one example of school-supported agriculture. And the next one I want to talk about is a contract, which seems to be a scary word, but it's also a really exciting word. Iowa State University started their Farm to ISU program in 2007, and right away it became very apparent that the farmers wanted to know for sure that this institution that's spending $6 million on food is going to buy the product that they're growing. So they started contracts, and they did it for 3 products, and they did it for the fall. So the first year they put out bids for peppers, tomatoes, and cucumbers. These were all things that they used a lot of, and they knew they were going to use it, and they knew they could get it locally in August and September. So they put out contracts, they accepted bids from growers, and then awarded the bid in December so that the producers could buy their seed, make their plan about how many people they're going to hire, what sort of equipment they need to do this, and then in the fall, those deliveries were made weekly. I just want to point out that there was an exit clause because as somebody who just got to farm through the drought in Iowa this past year, it's kind of scary when you promise somebody that you're going to grow them tomatoes and your tomatoes don't do well. Like for us, it was our onions just looked terrible this past year. So there is an exit clause. I talked to my friend who had put in the bid to sell carrots to Farm to Iowa State University, and his carrots didn't get as long as he thought they were going to get. So what he did is he just called a month in advance to when he was supposed to deliver, and he said, I'm not going to be able to make that delivery. And that meant that they knew that it wasn't coming, and they were able to make a phone call and order those carrots the next week. So it's really easy, but you just have to have that trust and that communication to make sure that that happens. The next one I wanted to talk about is an aggregation model. So this is a model of, like the ladies were talking about earlier, how important it is that the farm has their name on the product, and also that the food service can recognize that name and they know that they love the carrots from that farm. So Farm to Folk is a model in Ames, Iowa, and what happens is that multiple farmers submit their product availability weekly. So they say, this week I've got 12 pounds of carrots, I've got 6 pounds of broccoli, and I have a few pints of strawberries. Whatever it is that they've got available, and then the consumer goes to the website and chooses what they want, and then they show up to pick it up. And if there were only 6 pints of strawberries, as soon as those pints go, no more consumers get to sign up for it. And as you can see in both of these pictures, the boxes were really important, that each consumer got something from each farmer. So they've got blueberries in that picture and a basil plant, so a lot of different products were purchased from multiple farms and given to this one consumer. So it was a quick drop-off for the farmer, it was a quick pickup for the consumer, and also because it was an aggregation of farmers, it was an easy way for restaurants to buy local, so they could get a lot of different products without making 8 different phone calls, but just by filling it out on one website. And this table just talks a little bit about the benefits and challenges of both of those because they're not going to work for everybody. With the school-supported agriculture agreement, it's nice that it's consistent. There's 6 weeks where the farmer is delivering product and where the school food service knows that they're serving product that's local. And also the buyer got to choose which products it was that they wanted to buy. But the challenge is that the beginning of the school year is a really busy time. So planning to buy local in September and October is kind of difficult when you've already got to get your school food service off the ground. With the contract, it's nice that there's an early agreement, that you can plan with confidence that somebody's going to buy your product, but it can also be a big commitment. If you're working with an institution that's spending $6 million on food, that's a really big commitment to grow carrots for them. And then also with the aggregation model with Farm to Folk, it's nice that farmers decide their price and they also keep their name, and it's a central point for customers to go to, including restaurants and institutions. But the challenge is that it may not be the right place for some of those kitchens to shop. The aggregation might not be big enough that a large institution can buy enough